Yeah.
Yeah, reminds me
Well,
of Will and
thank you
I.
so much for joining me. I'm really excited to talk about your work. You have filmed in national parks and forests all across this country, but you've never been to Valley Forge.
I
True.
know. Well, it's a massive gap in our repertoire, especially growing up on the East Coast. We went up and down battlefields all over the place, historical monuments, parks, you name it. But we're really excited to get to tour it finally.
Yep, we're going to fix that. October 22nd, you're coming to Valley Forge as part of Valley Forge Park Alliance's speaker series. So, thanks to Penn State Great Valley, we're going to host you in this amazing space, show some of your work, and then the two of you are going to talk about it. So, thank you for agreeing to talk about it with me in advance so that we can really make sure everybody knows how important and incredible your work is. So if people want to sign up for the Valley Forge event, they can go to the Valley Forge Park Alliance website, and all of the information is right there. And it's a fundraiser for Valley Forge Park Alliance, which, as we all know, is very needed right now. So I want to start with your what I think is your latest work, and I'm gonna mispronounce it. Ocmulgee Mounds.
It's
That's close.
Ocmulgee.
Okay,
Ocmulgee
great.
with you see a hard G there.
Okay, great. So it's on your website, morethanjustparks.com, and it is just stunning. So can you walk me through a little bit of how you created that?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you. First, I would say I'd start out by saying Will and I are from Georgia. We're born and raised in Georgia, and so getting to do Ocmulgee Mounds was really special for us. It was a homecoming of sorts for us. We do a lot of work, primarily, do a lot of work out west, where you see a lot of the national parks. People typically associate the Western United States with national parks and the National Park Service. And so it was really such an honor and a treat to get to go to Ocmulgee, which is just 2 hours south of where we grew up. Ocmulgee, it was the capital of the Creek Nation. The Muskogee Creek people are come from there, going back millennia. And so what the park is famous for are these mounds. They built these incredible monumental earthworks there, and these ceremonial mounds, and they had an earth lodge, and all these things. And you can go to the park and you can still see these incredible earthworks that are ancient. And when you step into the park, you can really kind of feel the weight of the place. I guess that's the biggest thing for me when I think about Okmulgee is, of course, it's a beautiful place, but even if you don't know anything about it, when you get there, you feel the weight of the place, the gravity of the place. I mean, we're talking about one of the oldest sites, archaeological sites in the United States. Okmulgee is the site of the largest archaeological dig in U.S. history. They
Wow.
came up with, I believe it was over 1 million artifacts, tons and tons of artifacts that they still have yet to catalog them all. It's also a really cool thing about it is it's home to over 17,000 years of continuous human habitation. And when you think about that, 17,000 years, we're talking about going back to the Ice Age. So
Amazing.
it's an amazing, amazing place, and it was such a treat to get to make that film.
So, Will, walk me through. I mean, that's a big place, right? How do you storyboard where you're going to go? How do you start planning how to do it? And what time of year? How do you figure all that out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. It's something that Jim and I have kind of perfected over the years, I would say. It kind of starts with, okay, here we have a place. Ocmulgee is actually one of the more manageable sites we've done in terms of size and acreage. It's a great park that you can come and see in a few days. Maybe I would say spend a night there and see it in 2 days. It's a great spot like that. Whereas I don't know, Jim, maybe you know a little better than me, but I would say it's maybe a couple hundred to a couple thousand acres versus A lot of the places we go to, some of these national forests or parks, are millions of acres, and you're just talking about such vast areas. And so what we kind of do is we start with, like you said, Melissa, storyboard and kind of a spreadsheet. We go through Google Maps, we read people's blogs, we order this Forest Service map, we talk with the state tourism boards and the local tourism boards. We really hone down what are the primary, like, really cool activities, the great locations, and we start there. And then we try to build on that to find out, well, what are some spots that people might not know about? And I would say about roughly 60 to 70% of our schedule is scheduled down to a T. And then there's kind of a 30% buffer, I would say, for just finding out what we find when we get there. Sometimes we'll run into an amazing place and we'll say, well, we've got to spend a sunset here to capture this, or we got to show up tomorrow morning for sunrise to capture that. And so that's a really fun, it's one of the most fun parts of the process, I would say. And then it's a really cool game of expectations meet reality. A lot of these places Jim and I have never seen before we visit. And so we see them on the map, we see them on Google Images or photos that other people may have taken. And then you get there and it's a whole different experience. And,
Yeah,
we
also
find
I
it.
would say like so some places you just can't location scout, right? Like it's too the time it's going to get you to go there, you might as well just go.
Right.
But the other thing that I found when I do work with the National Park Service, and I haven't worked with forests, but the National Park Service websites are not fantastic because everybody's out working in the park and they're like, well, why don't you just come and visit and figure out what's here, you know? So you really sometimes don't know what to. And the thing I love about that is that people like us who love the parks, we create our own guides. I mean, your website has a ton of guides for people. You know, if you're going here, here's things to see. And I love that people just kind of create their own things about how to guide other people to get
Yeah.
through the parks, right? Isn't that a part of the cool thing of the Park Service?
So I think that's one of the things where you can do as much research as you want, but when you get there, it is a whole nother story.
So, Will, how do you, given all of that, how do you plan for what cameras to take, or do you always take the same things? How do you deal with equipment?
Yeah, so over the years, our kit has it's interesting. It's actually you'd think it kind of would grow, 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 get bigger, 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 but it's actually gotten smaller. I think just advances in technology have allowed us to pack a lot less. You should see some photos of Jim and I back in the day taking these huge packs with all this crazy equipment. And we were going onto these backcountry trails, most of these places where people are bringing life-saving equipment, water, food, supplies. And Jim and I are just bringing camera equipment, and people are wondering how we're going to survive out there. But it is one of those things. Nowadays, our kit has gotten to the point where we can kind of bring mostly the same stuff everywhere. We rotate a few pieces in and out here and there, but largely it consists of about 3 cameras, 4 lenses, a drone where possible, obviously not in the parks. We strongly discourage that. Never fly in the parks, but on the forest, it's a great
Mhm.
tool. Um, and then various tripods and other things, but it's gotten a lot smaller, I'd say.
So, Jim, if people were like me who are amateurs, not professionals like you, and I take my phone and, if you were going to give some advice to people who want to capture, like, if you're going to make an investment, is there maybe one or two things you would say, definitely take this with you?
Yeah, well, I would start by saying, you need one of the things you need to understand is a lot of what we do revolves around sunrise and sunset. When we get out to a place, we're working all day, but the really good light and we save everything that we're gonna our primary focus is at sunrise and sunset. So if you're not an early riser, that's going to be a challenge for you in getting a lot of these shots if you're not willing to get up at some pretty crazy hours sometimes, because some of these things involve a long hike as well. So we may be getting up at 3 in the morning and then to do a hike, and then you're getting the sunrise. So that's something I would take into consideration. But if you're looking to kind of get started in it, yeah, I mean, I would look at a great quality camera. I think that the mirrorless cameras these days are the way to go. You just don't have a lot of the it doesn't have the satisfaction of you know, an old DSLR with that click and the sort of mechanical feeling of it, but they're just a lot more versatile. So I think Sony makes some really great mirrorless cameras. That's the direction we've gone. Um, we have a whole suite of cameras though, from for all different kinds of purposes, but I would look for a mirrorless camera. I like Sony. And then you get that, you get a great tripod. Company we like is Vanguard. They make really great tripods, but I mean, you can put together a pretty good kit. You know, camera, tripod. You need a good versatile tripod head with like a ball mount. That lets you kind of, when you're set up in a spot, you don't have to do too much to get the right shot. And then the other thing you're going to want, obviously, is your lenses, and those, you know, there's a whole array of lenses. But you know, usually you can buy a camera that'll come with a lens, and you can start that way, and then see, you know, what do you like doing? Do you like using a telephoto, or are you trying to do wildlife shots? Then you're going to need a telephoto, right? Because we can't get right up next to the wildlife. So you know, I think about what it is your priorities are. Are you focused on wildlife? Are you focused on landscapes? And if it's landscapes, then you're going to want a nice 24 to 35 millimeter wide angle lens, and that's going to get you what you need to do. But that's your basic kit. It's not a whole, you know, crazy array of equipment, really.
And a lot of it can fit in a pack, as you're saying, right?
Absolutely,
That's right.
And now they
all
make
of
those
that goes
special
right into the
packs that have
backpack.
all the things on the sides, and you can
Exactly.
really, yeah,
Hmm.
that's great. Okay, I want to talk to you about one of the short films that you made that is not about something beautiful, and that's Fireline.
Mm.
So it is breathtaking. Unfortunately, it's a horrible thing. It's about a fire. So, Will, can you walk me through? Did you know you were going to film this? Did you like, how did this project even come to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not a lot of people ask us about that project, so we're always excited to talk about it. Fireline actually captures what it's like to be inside or behind the fire line, which is the line that the wildland firefighters set up to prevent the fire from moving past it. You know, kind of these safety zones. Jim and I, back in
2017.
20, 2017, shot this film where we worked with the Forest Service to go behind the scenes to capture what it's like working on an active fire. And it's, you know, one of the things I will say is meeting these incredible people out there, these people who literally put their lives on the line for our public lands and for our personal safety. It was an honor for us to be able to be there with them, and just an incredible experience. This film captures, just gives you a taste of what it's like behind there. You know, the site hopefully kind of gives you an idea of the sights, and the sounds of what that looks like. You know, whether it's a medevac for a helicopter, all the logistical operations. It's amazing when you arrive on scene and you see just the kind of small village that they have set up, which includes everything from medical to food, operations, all these logistics. It's wild, the telecoms, and to make it all
How did
happen.
you
And what's
guys plan?
interesting,
Like they said to you, the Forest Service kit, like, unfortunately, there's going to be a fire every year, right? So did they say, like, we
Yeah.
want to capture this, we just need to wait for a fire and then get you to where the fire is? Is that how it happened?
That's that's pretty much it. And this is one of those things, right, where there's no storyboard, and there's no, you know, there's very little planning that can go into this. Like, you know,
So
we
you
kind of,
didn't know
we
what
know
to
we're going.
expect when you got like maybe you had an over.
No, no.
You
I
didn't
mean,
know. Oh
we,
wow.
yeah, an overview of what a fire, you know, operation is like. You know, and we kind of knew some of the things that we were going to be covering, but yeah, you don't know the terrain you're going to be on, and you know, we're not firefighters, so we don't know anything about doing that. And they embedded us with the crew, and so we were in there. With these crews, you know, inside the fire line, and it was an incredible experience and such an honor to get to do. But yeah, it's something you really can't plan for. And it was just like, yeah, we're going to bring our equipment and we're going to film what we can, and just try and come away with the best footage and the best representation of what this is really all about.
So Will, were you wearing the fire gear?
oh yeah, we were wearing the fire gear, the yellow fire retardant stuff, the pants, the boots. It's funny, we actually bought some special boots. You can't wear steel toe boots in a fire because it heats up too much and it'll literally burn your feet. And so the day we got there, on the scene the first day, we kind of wanted to fit in, so we wanted to make our boots look a little bit dirty like the firefighters were, not these fresh clean boots. And so right before we got there, we kind of stopped off on the side of the road and kicked the dirt around a little bit. We got into the security checkpoint, and the sheriff there says, "What in the hell were you boys doing back there?" And we kind of had to try to play it down a bit, but they caught us on that one.
The
But
boots are
it's fun.
interesting. You have to wear. They have to be a certain thickness, because the when you're walking on, you're walking on a lot of embers, and like you're walking in these burn areas, and the ground is extremely hot, and so you can see the embers down there, and you can, if you spend enough time, in the same place, even with these really thick boots, you feel that heat start to seep through the bottom of your boots, which is it's pretty crazy. Just the conditions these guys work in is it's incredible.
Yeah,
The
I'm
toll
nodding because
and the
my
demand.
dad and my brother were firefighters. Um,
Oh,
and
well, there you go.
not in forest, but just like in residential regular fire departments. And for a story one time, I went to see if I could do it. So you haven't met me in person yet, but I'm 5'2" on a good day. And so they were like, no, they're female firefighters. Let's put the gear on you. And I couldn't even stand up. The helmet was so heavy, the
Yeah,
suspenders and the boots. I was like, I can't move. Like,
yeah, yeah.
so I
Yeah,
can't
it's
imagine you guys wearing all that and then photographing. I mean, it must have
Yeah,
just been,
yeah.
it
yeah,
was
but it's a
hot.
fantastic, I mean, unfortunately, it's beautiful and horrifying at the same time. So you made them look like soldiers. There's that one image of them walking, like they're walking into, war, which I guess they are.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a battle mentality out there that, to get done, especially just given the expanses that they're set to control. I mean, they go in there, and most of the time, 99% of the time, everybody comes out fine, but there's plenty of injuries. There's plenty of loss of life out there. It's a really, really dangerous job. And we just try to do our part to show what these people go through and to kind of honor their work, which is extremely important for us to enjoy these beautiful landscapes.
Yep. I mean, they're the reason why, what we have is still there. I mean, because every year we're dealing with more and more wildfires, and these are the people that are keeping our forests intact, and saving lives and landscapes. So yeah.
So on the other end of the spectrum is the film you did about Grand Teton, where it's just magical and peaceful seeming. So when you have an expanse like that, you're doing time lapse, it looks like. Is that right, or is it something else?
No, it was a lot of time lapse. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you guys stay there the whole time, or do you set up cameras and leave, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you go out to, especially a place like Grand Teton. I mean, it's such an expansive land. But when we're that film, was primarily time lapse based, as you mentioned. And yeah, typically we're staying with the camera when it's running a time lapse. But it depends on the kind of time lapse. If you're just doing, like, maybe you're doing a time lapse for a half hour, that's something you can set up, kind of stay there. Maybe there are some other shots you can get in the vicinity. But then, if you're doing a time lapse, maybe you're doing a day to night, or you're doing several hours. That's something where, yeah, ideally you can set it up in a spot, like, that you have control of, and then kind of go and do something else. But by and large, we're staying in a relative proximity to the camera when we're doing that, because we have had instances where we've left the camera, and we've nearly had it taken, so a few times where somebody had picked it up and was walking away with it, and we were like, oh, no. So yeah, I would recommend staying near the camera. That's typically what we do when we're doing those time lapses. But yeah, Grand Teton what a beautiful park.
So are you camping in these places? Like, is your shoot, and do you have a shoot for like 7 days? Like you have to, because you have lives, you have families, you have other things that you're doing. Is it like a 7 day thing that you typically do, or how does that work?
That's a good question. It's something that's evolved over the years. The first film that Jim and I ever did for More Than Just Parks was on Olympic National Park. We didn't have wives or kids at that point, and so we spent a full 3 weeks in the park. We
You
lost
can't do
two
that
ten.
now.
Yeah, no, we lost 2 tents while we were there just due to rain and conditions and adapting. We were, you go several nights without showering, all sorts of
You
things.
take a lot more risks too. We had nothing to lose back then. We're like, well, what? We have nowhere better to be. We have,
Yeah, it
like
was the
we're out
dream.
here. We were young. We're reckless. We're ready to, jump over this and do that, and whatever. And we've gotten into all kinds of close brushes, and scrapes, and. But no, it's funny you mentioned that because you get married, and then the timeline starts to shrink. Then you have a kid, and it really starts to shrink, right? We're like, okay, how can we really condense this? So yeah.
But I will say the timelines have gotten shorter. Melissa, you're pretty spot on. These days, it's about a week. It depends. Like we're Jim and I actually the day after our event with you at Valley Forge, we're actually going down to Kentucky to work with the state of Kentucky to do a film on the Daniel Boone National Forest. So production will start on the tail end for that, and then actually on the front end, we're doing some work for a upcoming book project that we have on old growth where we'll be out in Pennsylvania. And so it's kind of bookended, and we kind of put stuff together as much as possible. But now it's about in that 7 to 7 day range is what we shoot for. But we have gotten a lot better too. At the beginning we were kind of shooting everything and seeing what happened. I think about 80% would get cut on the cutting room floor. Now we're a lot more surgical, strategic, and a lot more of what we shoot mixed into the final product.
But I bet people would be surprised because your films are short films, right? But you have to shoot for 7 days to get 5 minutes sometimes, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it, right? I mean, when we shoot a tremendous amount of footage, even now, where we're much more efficient with what we're doing. Just right practice over the years. We've been doing this so long, and you kind of figure out, okay, this now we know how many days we need, and how to, as Will mentioned, originally we're shooting anything and everything, and then we'd get to the post production, to the edit, and we'd say, oh wow, we have all this footage, and we've got to find a way to make a short film out of this, and you'd leave just a tremendous amount of footage on the cutting room floor. That's still the case, but it's a lot less. So even still, you're spending a week out in a place and condensing that into a few minutes. And yeah, I mean, we have hard drives and hard drives full of all kinds of amazing footage that never sees the light of day, because we have to condense it into small, short films. And yeah, so that's the nature of the business. And Will and I always joke about this, but the cutting room floor can be pretty ruthless, because we're out there shooting different stuff, and I'm like, well, this piece that I shot, that should definitely be making it, and he's, oh well, no, this one should be making it. And so that can be opportunities for a bit of disagreement, for sure.
And in between all of that, you find time to write these amazing email newsletters that you have through your Substack, right?
Yeah.
So people can sign up at morethanjustparks.com. You've been advocating tirelessly for the parks, especially since February of this year. But can you tell me a little bit about your writing? Do you take turns with it? Like what's your creative process with the writing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our Substack is kind of one of the primary places, especially these days, like you mentioned, Melissa, where public lands are really under attack from all sorts of fronts, from funding to just priorities that we've kind of all agreed on for the past, 5 decades are now at risk. And so, prior to our writing for this Substack, we were, like you said, mostly writing fun guides for folks. This year, things kind of changed, and we've moved full force into the advocacy space because these lands have given us so much over the years. They've given our grandparents that. We want it for our kids as well. And I think if you want that, you kind of have to fight for it. In terms of the creative process, it is interesting. A lot of the times, Jim and I will kind of alternate weeks, so we'll have an on or off week. But then there's plenty of stuff where, during my week, Jim will say, "Hey, I've got a great thing," or vice versa, and we go with it. But right now, news in this sphere is coming in so hot and heavy that there's no shortage of
Yeah.
things to write about.
Yeah. And do you ever fight over creative things? I know a lot of husbands and wives who work together. I don't know a lot of brothers. I don't know a lot of brothers or siblings who work together. I mean, I would love to work with my brother, and I think we would have a shorthand, but we might also fight.
Yeah, great question. I
um,
mean, Jim, I would say that when we're out on production, it's very rare that we'll get into any sort of dispute. I think sometimes it's just over time management. We have to choose between this sunset or that sunset, or this shot or that shot. And, it's a 50-50. A lot of the times it's a coin toss. And so that you get mostly though, like Jim said, it's on the cutting room floor. It's, man, I love this shot or that. But now we have a system with that too, where we pretty much alternate who edits the film. And so somebody's the primary and they get the final say, and that's that, regardless of what the other person thinks. We set that up a few years ago, and that's worked really great for us because it is what it is.
I think you do this long enough, and yeah, we've eliminated a lot of potential friction points over the years, and I guess some of those things that this project could have ended a long time ago if we hadn't done that, right? So I think we've done a decent job of kind of honing that in and making it something that can be sustainable.
So, how do you decide which parks or forests or sites to go to?
That process has evolved over the years as well. It used to be we would pick something that interested us, right? And particularly when we were starting out, we we, we weren't making any money. We had no, we didn't, we didn't. We were just wanting to visit these places and kind of put our skills to use to showcase these places. Of course, now doing what we do all these years later, obviously it pays the bills. So there's a different calculus when you're picking places. But every year we have, I guess Will and I kind of have a short list of places that we're interested in going to and capturing, and we'll reach out to people who are affiliated with those places. But we also have, we get a tremendous amount of outreach to us, right? So we get a lot of people coming to us
Like
saying,
me.
"Hey, we'd like you." Yeah, that's the idea, right? It took a few years, a long time ago, and we were like, "Yeah, hopefully that's going to happen." And there were plenty of times where we're sitting around wondering, okay, maybe we chose the wrong line of work, but it did pan out eventually. And now, yeah, we get a lot of people reaching out to us and asking, hey, can you do sort of the more than just parks treatment on this destination or that destination? And that's between that and then us having a short list and approaching places. That's how a lot of the decisions get made, and it's worked really well for us. It's an amazing job, to get to go and visit these incredible places and try and do our best to capture sort of the essence of them. We can never, do that 100%,
You do
but
beautiful work. I mean, and
well,
having been in
appreciate
some of the places that you have done films about, it's just amazing to see how you create those places. And I would also say, because we're all parks people here, that in addition to the landscapes, one of the best things about parks is the people that you meet in the parks. I'm sure you
100%.
agree. Yeah. And so I was just at, not just, but over the summer, I was at Grand Canyon for the first
Yeah.
time.
wow.
And
Amazing.
yeah, it's amazing. And I was there on a project. And of course, everything is beautiful there, all of the landscapes and the canyon. But I met the coolest people too. And it's really fun to be like, well, which parks have you been to? And then, oh, you have to go here, or you have to go here. And it's a thing that unites us, I think,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I
So
think Yeah, I think so too. I think that's a really great point. I think parks people are the best people. People out in nature, I think nature brings out the best in all of us. So, I feel like the version of yourself that's at home versus the version of yourself that's in the park can also be two different people. The version of yourself in the park, unless you're in some sort of mosquito den, is going to be probably the best version of you. And so you meet people who are just happy out there. When you look around, you have trees, you have nature, you have wildlife. It's hard not to have a smile on your face. And I think that's one of the great things about this work that Jim and I love so much is it is a unifying thing. Parks are kind of something that pretty much everybody can agree on, you would think, or at least
well,
almost.
not
Um,
everybody.
not everybody. I think if you're some sort of an extraction company, you view public lands a little bit differently than the average user. But most people see a park or a beautiful landscape and they say, wow, that's an amazing place where I can recreate or enjoy. Um, and that's a cool thing.
So you're coming to Valley Forge October 22nd. We're very excited to host you. What other places are on your wish list? Jim, what's on your wish list?
So that's a great question. That's tricky. Man, there's so many places that I've been wanting to get to, and whether it's just simply as a visitor or to get to do a film on. I know Alaska jumps off. Is sort of immediately comes to mind. We've done work in Alaska. We've done work for the Forest Service over there. And we've gotten to go to some amazing places over there. But I have not been to we did kind of dip our toes into Kenai Fjords National Park when we were over there. That's near Seward, Alaska. But I would love to go to Denali. Denali, just to see that mountain. And I know a lot of people who have been, and they always say, the odds of you actually getting to see the mountain are pretty slim because it's usually shrouded in the clouds. It's the tallest mountain in the North America, and it's absolutely massive and spectacular. And but if you can catch it on the right day, and you get there, you'll have this sort of cloud layer on the bottom, and you think, oh, there's nothing there. And you look up to the sky where there would never normally be a mountain. You'd be seeing clouds, sky, and all of a sudden you just see this peak rise out of the sky. I mean, it's like Mount Olympus. I mean, it's otherworldly. It's incredible, and so I would love to get to see that and just get to see those incredible landscapes. Alaska, thanks to Jimmy Carter, has some of the most amazing landscapes that are completely intact and preserved in our national park system, and so they have so many amazing places. They're very difficult to get to, but I would love to get out there and go explore those places for sure.
That might be longer than 7-day trip.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you can
think
take
so.
your
So
family with you.
That's what
That's
I that's what I was
that's
gonna
right.
say.
It's
I
great.
think I'd
yeah.
have to bring everybody in tow there.
Will, what's on
Yeah.
your wish list?
If Jim will go glacial on this, I'll go tropical. I'll say American Samoa National Park would be an epic destination to go see. And I'd also love to see El Yunque National Forest in Puerto Rico. I think that would be amazing too. So those are two kind of off the wall, very difficult. I guess the Puerto Rico one's less so. American Samoa, you have to be really dedicated to going to go see that. Unless I guess you're on a cruise ship, those see it pretty frequently. But anyways, those are two that I'd like to go see.
Well, I'm excited that you're coming to see Valley Forge. And thank you for agreeing to do it. And thank you for agreeing to help us do this as a fundraiser so that we can raise funds for Valley Forge Park Alliance that will help Valley Forge Historic National Park. So I'm excited to meet you in person. And thank you again for doing this.
So we're
Yeah, thank
thrilled.
you so much. I think we're probably more excited than you are to go get to see Valley Forge for the first time. So thank you for hosting us.
We're excited.